timing of the arm swing is a little bit interesting. If you think about it, the arm is really nothing more than a pendulum. It has two parts, a forward swing and a backward swing. And the spacing of our keyframes and the timing of the movement needs to include a small slowing effect as the movement transitions from the forward swing to the back swing. And that happens right about here at frame 13 inside of our animation. Let me turn my onion skinning off real fast so you guys can see it a little bit more clearly. So as a reminder, our arm swings forward and then it swings backwards. Well, at the conclusion of the forward swing, right about frame 13, we need to slowly conclude this movement and then slowly begin the next movement. And we'll do the same thing at the back. The easing on the beginning and the end of our animations is real quick, but in the middle here, if we slow it down, we create a great sense of weight and gravity as the arm kind of almost fluidly drags behind the movement of the body itself. It creates a nice easing effect. Now, as we keyframe this, it's starting to look pretty good, but the more that we add, the more detail we add in the in-betweens, the finer this movement's going to be. And I'm going to help myself out to stay organized. I'm going to apply the extreme keyframe type to all of my keyframes, just so I can visually understand how all of these keyframes are working. And this is just a visualization, just for me to kind of see and continue to manage all of my drawings. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. And now I'm going to focus my attention on from 10 to 16. These 6 frames in here are really important, and we're going to do this through a whole series of passes. The first thing I'm going to do is just look at the shoulders. Let's turn my onion skinning back on so I can see the future. And I'm also going to turn the body layer off. That way, it's just a little bit more clear in the creation of all of these in-betweens. I could use the interpolation tool, but I think I'm going to go in and just really fine-tune it with just by hand. It's actually going to go a lot faster. Now, right now, I got my onion skinning enabled. I'm seeing 1 frame in the past and 1 frame in the future. The purple's the future, the green's the past. So in every sense, the green one is the keyframe that we see over here on frame 7. On frame 10, we're starting to see where the arm should be on frame 13. And so we can start to see how we need to transition between these two ideas. Let's hit the right arrow key to advance my playhead forward 1 frame, and I'm going to initially animate the location of the arm so it starts to transition between these two movements. Now, I want it to slowly get to frame 13. Frame 11, I'm going to hit the G key, grab my drawings. Let's do this. Right about there on frame 11, and I go forward to frame 12, right about there on frame 12. These 2 keyframes down here accidentally got the extreme keyframe type applied to them when I duplicate or when I animated it. And I don't want that, so I'm going to just turn them off. I'm looking exclusively at the shoulder. When you're animating, focus on the part that you've just changed. Do this in passes. I'm happy with the shoulder movement. Let's return to those exact same frames now and do the elbows. Focus on just a couple in-betweens. Make these 2 in-betweens rock solid and perfect, and then advance on to the next. Okay. So on frame 11, the green one is frame 10, and the purple one is frame 12. And I need to start experimenting with how I'm going to rotate it so that it gets to my keyframe over here on frame 13. So this is where it starts to get a little bit of fun, because we want to start slowly transitioning between these big keyframes, but the in-betweens give us a little bit of character and movement as well. If we're just duplicating the frames, we're going to get this illusion that the animation is pretty stiff. We still want to continue to rotate all of these objects, just very subtly and very slowly. All right, I'll grab those body parts down there, and maybe the elbow. I'm looking at the elbow now. Remember, the green is the past. The purple is the future. Yeah, somewhere right around there. I'm just focusing on the shoulder and the elbow. In the next pass, I'll do the elbow, the wrist, and the hand. Okay, I'm liking that. Let's go to forward on frame 12. The green one is the work that I just completed on frame 11. Let's use my 3D cursor tool to place it right there at the center of the shoulder. I'm going to deselect, or maybe just select everything but that shoulder joint. And I'm going to rotate this down a little bit. Now, the reason I'm rotating it down is that I want to start easing into frame 13. So 12, 13, 14, and maybe even 15, the elbow is not going to move that much. So the spacing in between the drawings is going to be pretty tight. Now look at the spacing between the elbow on frame 11 to 12, and then the purple one is 14. Yeah. Let's play it. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Okay, so here it is on frame 10. Of course, the green one is the pass. That one's way over here on frame 7. If we keep going here, let's do the wrists now. Let's do from the elbow to the wrist. And we're going to look very closely at the distance it's traveling in between these frames. Let's put our 3D cursor right here in our elbow. Grab just the parts of the armature that I want to work with. Fire off the rotation tool. And I think I'm going to start just a little bit of a bend in here on 11. And on 12, yeah, I'm going to put it up a little bit higher because you can see that the wrist really doesn't move much between 12 and 13. Let's change the location of our 3D cursor, make a new selection, rotate it with the R key, and then there we go. And this is what we want to do for all of our in-betweens. We want to customize the location of all of these elements to really start to produce the easing that we're after. Yeah, let's play the animation. Zoom out just a little bit. Yeah, and it's starting to look pretty good. We still have a lot of work left in front of us, but this is the thought process and the thinking that we need to go through to create the movement, the smooth, fluid movements that we're after. And I would continue this exact same sequence of thoughts for 13 through 16. Now, the last thing that we need to do in here on 11 and 12 is to pose the wrist. And let's go to frame 11 and start comparing what the past and the future is going to look like. And I think what I want to do, because on frame 13, it goes down like that. On frame, let's do this. I'm actually going to work backwards because it'll be a little bit easier for me to work. Put my 3D cursor right there in the middle of the wrist. Grab just the hand itself. And I'm going to rotate it up a little bit, right in there. Same thing for on frame 11 now. On this frame, I'm going to rotate it up just a little bit too. Let's see what that produces for us. Let's play the animation. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. It's creating a nice smooth effect, and I think that's going to look real good. As we continue to go through frames 14 and 15, let's experiment with how we can create a little bit more overlapping action. If you look carefully here, on frame 13, we're seeing the keyframe that's established on frame 16, and we get this cool little flip up on the wrist itself. Now, we have to make some decisions here as to how we want to do this. On frame 16, is the flip up of the wrist, is it the peak? And if so, how are we going to pose the animation on frame 15? But let's be disciplined artists. Let's not go too fast through this process. Let's keep with the system that we've created before. I know it's exciting to think about all these wonderful character movements, but let's, on frame 14, start to establish where the shoulder is going to be, and then on frame 15, same thing, and then we'll do the elbow, the wrist, and the hand. If we focus in on these passes, it goes real fast. Let's just do it real quick. It'll just take a second. All right, so I'm just turning off the pass so I can get a really good understanding of where I need to go to on frame 16. And what I'm going to do here, I got everything selected. I'm going to grab it, pull the shoulder down, go forward to frame 15 now, pull the shoulder down a little bit. Now let's change these keyframe types. Hit the R key, keyframe type. There we go. Nice smooth movement. Yeah, the distance it's traveling on, I'm just looking at the shoulder now, is very, very small. All right, on 14, let's look at the rotation that we need to start establishing for the elbow itself. Because 13 and 16, yeah, there's quite a bit of rotation that's applied here in the elbow itself. So let's get that starting to look good. So here we are on 14. I'm going to do 2 frames forward so I can see what 16 is looking like. because I think I have some big time adjustments that I need to make to get where I want to go. Now I'm looking at the shoulders good, the elbow not so good. So we need to rotate the entire arm first. And I think maybe what I need to do, I'm going to go to 15. Sometimes it's really easy to go to the frame right before keyframe to make an adjustment. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here to frame 15. Grab all the parts and pieces that I need to edit, and I'm going to rotate this. I'm looking at the elbow. I want the elbow to travel very, very small amounts. And now with that small amount established on frame 15, frame 14 makes a little bit more sense. Let's change the location of my 3D cursor to the middle of the elbow. And I accidentally moved it. There we go. And now we can rotate this back a little bit. Yeah. All right. All right, we're doing good. We're doing some good work now. Now let's start to experiment with where we want the wrist to be in all these movements. Let's play the animation. Now I think I want the wrist to be a little bit more full of life because we have this wonderful, wonderful overlapping action in here. So I think on 14 and 15 and 16, yeah, I want to have from the elbow to the wrist, I want the arm to be up a little bit more. Let's do that real fast. Change the cursor to middle of the elbow. Grab all the parts that I want to rotate, and I want to have this be up. Somewhere right around in there. 15, same thing. Cursor at the elbow, select the parts that we want to work with, and I want to have it be right in there. Before we go any further, let's look at it. Yeah, we're getting there. Now we can start to see that the wrist is rotating up. It's subtle and it is fast. I think once we may want to accentuate it a little bit, but that'll be another finishing pass. Let's work on the hand now. Let's get that dialed. Put my cursor there, grab my hand, rotate it. So I want my hand to be somewhere right around there on 15. And on 16, same thing. Put my hand somewhere right around in there. Now I'm kind of making a straight plane here, but are we going to see it when we play the animation? Not so much. Not so much. I'm happy with that. That's a good place to go. Let's stop the animation, turn on our body, and see the sum result of all of our work. Now we have some edits in here that we need to make. If you look very carefully, let's go into object mode so we don't see in the wireframes. If you look very carefully, our shoulder is going down a little too much. So we have some tweaks in here that we need to perform to really make sure that the positioning of our shoulder remains consistent in relationship to the body itself. And that's that's part of the process, right? We established a first pass, and now the second and third pass are refining those movements to capture the overall end result that we're looking to craft. So the timing of these animations, especially when it comes to the arm swings, is really important so that we can start to figure out and explore how it's going to slowly conclude the forward movement and slowly begin that backwards movement.